understand that God has given us things to do. He has given us work was one of them. We talked about work. And the whole idea behind the concept of work is, I don't want us to be a people who are afraid of work. I don't like to get around those who don't appreciate the concept of work. And so, because it's biblical, the scripture tells us to work, and whatever we find to do with our hands, to do it as unto the Lord. So work as unto the Lord. And so I wanted us to have that idea that work is very important. And then last week we were talking about Nehemiah, and this idea that Nehemiah had a vision from God, and he understood the calling from God, and that he wasn't intimidated by the task that the Lord had called him to do, and to go out there and do that. And so today what I want to talk about is time. Stewarding our time. I am, or hopefully I'm getting better at stewarding my time, right? And I think we all have sat under time management classes, yeah? They've sat me down, and we probably all bought those big time management books, right? Hoping that would organize our life. And now the new thing is a time management app, so you download it, all of a sudden, your life is highly organized, right? It doesn't work. I downloaded like 6 of them. I'm still not all that good. Time has no respecter of men. True? I mean, time is time, and whoever you are, rich or poor, Hispanic, whatever, it doesn't matter. We all get 365 days in a year. We all have time. That it's been said that time is free, but it's priceless. Time is free, but it's priceless. And our famous Mr. Benjamin Franklin, I just found out in my studies that he's the one who coined time is money. Time is interesting. You can't accumulate it. You can't stockpile it. It's not like you can get some big barrel at the house and just kind of, I need some extra time and throw some time in there. You can't turn it off or on. Right? It's just constantly going. You can't replace it. You can't retrieve it after it's gone. And here's the last thing that's pretty sobering about it. You are forced to spend it whether you like it or not. Right? How do we make the most of our time? Because there's 2 kinds of people. Well, there's a whole slew of people. But the 2 big groups that are out there are the workaholics, that I can easily slide into. That's kind of my DNA. Or there's the lazy guy or gal who does nothing. And so both of them, I'm going to suggest, are poor stewards of the time that God has given them. The workaholic who spends 60 to 70 hours a week is not what God has called him to do. The person who lounges and does nothing all day is a poor steward of time, because it's kind of like this. The workaholic, if we don't have balance, they become very feverish. You know the person. Very legalistic. They're the joy kill. You guys, if you don't know the person at work who's like that, you're that person. Okay? I'm just saying. The joy kill, the one who's just always just going, and you get, you know what I mean, right? Your shoulders go up because they're around you and they're just constantly, don't be that person. God has called us to be a people of balance. He created 6 days to work, 1 day to rest. Unfortunately, there are people, and our society tells us to work 7 days a week. That is unhealthy. Or you have the person who will rest for 6 days and then will work for 1 day. You know what I'm saying? And that's not healthy either. There are, and I know those people. I would love to be that person, but my DNA doesn't allow me to. There are seasons of rest. There are seasons to go fast. You know what I mean? But we have to recognize seasons in life. We have to recognize the rhythm of life. And our culture has robbed us from the rhythms, the healthy, the pace of Jesus. The Jesus rhythm, I'm not saying it right, but there's this rhythm that Jesus seems to have that is, he's not a fanatical guy, right? I mean, he's not anxious, he's not always going. But yet, he always got done what needed to get done, didn't he? And he always took time to rest. And we'll look at that some more too. Okay? So in Ecclesiastes, look at this, man. He runs down this list. He talks about there's a time to be, a time for birth, a time to pass away, there's a time to plant, time to uproot, to kill, to heal, to tear down, build up, laugh and mourn, gather, scatter, war, peace. Obviously, that's not an exhaustive list, but he's trying to make the point of what? That life has seasons. And that there's always a time to do whatever that season of life requires you to do. So this season of life, you're a mom of a baby kid, that is your season. Do that. A healthy life has balance and rhythms. Or stewarding your time is not about learning how to do more stuff better. It's not. It's not learning how to gather more stuff into your life and learn how to balance it better. You know, like the people with the plates, right? Spinning the plates. It's not about putting more plates up there and getting better at balancing plates. It's not about that. It's about knowing what God has told you to say no to. Is that familiar? All right? It's only spinning the plates, if I can use that analogy. It's only spinning the plates that God has called you to spin, not what culture has hoisted onto you. Better yet, it's about taking the plate off of that and taking your plate and sitting with the Lord at His table. Amen. And resting. Stewarding your time is knowing how and when to say no. Please hear me on this one. I am a people pleaser. I will say yes to everything. Well, no longer will I say yes to everything. After I hit my wall, after I hit burnout, I realized that I was saying yes so often that I neglected my wife and my children, and I'm no longer doing that. Here's the hard one, learning how to say no to family. Healthy boundaries. Learning to say, I love you, but no, that hurts. That hurts. But you got to learn how to say no, especially when they're never trying to be mean or ugly, but they will just infringe on your time. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're trying to rest. That is family. I get it. Learn how to say no. Here's the big one. Learn how to say no to work. That's hard. Why are you laughing? Yeah. Yeah, it's easy except when the paycheck's not there, right? And you got to work that out. You have to work that out. And each person has to make that happen for themselves. But you have to learn how to say no. And then your friends. So just learning how to say no is so, so important to stewarding your time, especially what the Lord has called you to do. And you need to know how to say yes. Yes to the small, still voice. Yes, when the Lord says, I need you to do, right? I'm telling you, that voice won't necessarily come from the pulpit. It won't necessarily come from a friend. It will come when you are sitting at His table, quietly and listening. And He will say, I need you to do. J. Richard Ackerman makes this observation. In this rat race of always being on the go, we are failing, listen to what he observes here, we are failing to grasp who we are, why we are here, and where we're really going. We're like the bus driver who told the passengers, I have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is we took a wrong turn and are on the wrong road. But don't worry, the good news we're making great time. I would hate to be on that bus. But how many of us are on that bus? Right? How many of you know that the Lord has called me to do this, but yet your bus is going that way, and you're making great time? God has given you X amount of time. Steward it well. Steward it well. It's not uncommon to hear things like, there's just not enough time in the day to do everything I need to do. True? I just don't know where the time goes. Or, I'll try to find time, but man, I'm hard pressed for time at the present. I wish I could make time stand still, or I wish I could go back in time. I need more time to do what God has called me to do. Hear me, please, people. If this becomes our mantra, if this becomes things that we say all the time, then you are not stewarding your time well. That's hard. And that my coach, my church planting coach, really brought me to task on this one. Because I would often say, man, I just don't have time. And he's like, well, Don, then you're not stewarding your time well. He always gives you time to do what he's called you to do. If you don't have time, then you have not stewarded your time well. And so I try real hard not to ever use those mantras or those phrases, because I want to steward my time well. When it's all said and done, and when my time is over, I want to hear the Father say, well done. Amen. Well done. You steward your time well. You steward your money well. Your family well. The church well. You stewarded well. You were a good steward of what I have given you. In Mark 6, 7 through 13, it says this. Then Jesus went around teaching from village to village, calling the 12 to him. And he began to send them out, 2 by 2, and gave them authority over impure spirits. These were his instructions. Take nothing for the journey except a staff, no bread, no bag, no money in your belt. Wear sandals, but not an extra shirt. Whenever you enter a house, stay there until you leave that town. And if any place will not welcome you or listen to you, leave the place, shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them. They went out and preached to the people that the people should repent. They drove out many demons and anointed many sick people with oil and healed them. Picking up in verse 30, the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all that they had done and taught. Then, because so many were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, come with me by yourself to a quiet place and get some rest. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. And in verse 30, right, you pick it up, and it says that they came back, and in the Greek, it's very enthusiastic. It says that they came back and reported everything that they had done. They were excited. Jesus, we did everything that you told us to do. And what I love about Jesus' response, he didn't say, man, that's good, let's go on to the next task. Right? He didn't say, man, good job, guys. I have a list here of you to do more things. He didn't do that. He said, come with me to a quiet place and rest. And the point that I'm trying to draw from there, watch this, is that they stewarded their time well. They did what God called them to do, and then he called them to a place of rest, and they took advantage of that time of rest. And that's the point of life. Work in the season of work, rest in the season of rest. Life has rhythms. Come to me, send you out, come back in again. Come to me, I'll send you out, come back in rest. If you can find a rhythm, your life will have much more meaning. You will get done what he has called you to do, and you will not be frantic. I've lived frantic for way too long. I'm not going to do that for the last few years of my life. Hopefully it's a lot less. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be that kind of person, and nor do you. Nor do you. Learn what the Sabbath is. The Sabbath is a day of rest. It doesn't mean you sit. It could be if you wanted to sit in a dark, cold room with the sheets up and the Lord of the Rings playing. I'm just saying, if you happen to like to do that and fall asleep, yeah, it's just a random thought that came to my mind, but it's okay. That's your Sabbath. Or if you want to go out, if hiking recharges you, go hike. Give yourself permission to Sabbath with the Lord. And then the last thing, if you want to steward your time wisely, you have to be very deliberate with your family. Right? And I know you heard this, right? No one at their deathbed goes, man, I wish I would have spent more time out over doing whatever. It's always, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. Right? I don't believe any new information came to you this morning, but I do pray it was timely, seasonal, and that now